But anyway, hey, Patrick. So glad to be talking to you today.
Hey, Floral. Glad to be talking to you, too.
Yeah, perfect. So, I just wanted it would be a good idea to talk to you about some of the things that are going on, your thoughts, your feelings on what's going on in the world, but also how you interact with all of this stuff that we're presently, for lack of a better word, enjoying. And so, yeah. So anyway,
Sounds
just before we begin, why don't you tell me about yourself and what you do, any internet passwords you have, and anything else you deem relevant.
Sounds good. Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me on, Floral. I'm crossing one off the bucket list, talking to a puppet for the first time. So thanks for
you know
having
what
me.
they say, if you've talked to a puppet, then you've probably made it. Right?
Yeah.
Think about all those Disney stars over the years.
True. I'm hoping so. I'm hoping that turns out to be true. So my name is Patrick Jolicouer. I host a show called the Hemlock podcast. And so I guess I'm maybe a commentator, or I try to be entertaining. So an entertainer. I try not to take myself too seriously, but I try to just present like culture, truth, politics, philosophy, with kind of a fun bent, going a little deeper than kind of just like the sound bites you hear all the time out in legacy news. That's kind of what I'm trying to make happen right now. So that's it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome. So you don't want to share any passwords?
No, I'm good on that. Thank you, though.
Yeah.
Thank
All right.
you.
Well, it was worth a shot.
How about you?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well,
What are your passwords?
you want to know about me?
Yeah, sure. Well, I was asking about your passwords, but
Well, under a rock. That's if you look under, you'll probably find something. But that's kind of the extent of my life. I got a video on it, give my story, but
got it.
Yeah. But normally I just kind of spend my day in this room on a stick, and yeah. This is my plant. Trees nuts. So,
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. So, looking at your channel, you're very much a conservative. You would say that's probably true?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Kind of everything kind of falls into the partisan. We're in a hyper-partisan time. And I don't like to... I'm kind of naturally disinclined towards labels because I don't think anything is easily boxed up. But yeah, generally a lot of my opinions lined up.
Just to stop you there, a lot of things are very easily boxed up. Have you ever ordered anything from Amazon?
I have. Yes. Yeah.
Lots of labels.
Yeah. That's very true. That's very true. I haven't ordered a political opinion off Amazon yet, though.
So you probably very easily could these days, though.
You probably could.
Oh man,
you probably
they
could
limit
in the form of a children's book or something. Yeah.
Definitely.
Anti-racist baby. I think generally my conservatives my opinions, lean to the conservative side. Yeah, that's fair.
That's fair. And so now, if you're looking at the Canadian political spectrum, if you will, would you suggest that you're Canadian Conservative Party of Canada or more other parties?
Well, just to be honest, I voted PPC in the last election. So I was kind of born and raised. Yeah, shocking. I actually had the privilege of interviewing Maxime Bernier a few episodes ago, just ahead of the election, which was really great. He's a super intelligent dude. He can communicate his opinions very eloquently, and that's one of the biggest things I appreciated is people, especially political leaders these days, who can communicate a vision past just like doing stuff that sounds good or saying stuff that sounds good. Like our current hairsprayed buffoon in chief, Justin Trudeau, just says a lot of nice sounding stuff, but practically, like, look what he's doing to our country, right?
Yeah, it's true.
So I voted PPC, and a lot of people think that's racist or whatever, or like there's a whole bunch of stuff in the news about him that's just not true. I was born and raised kind of small c conservative, but I just don't think Erin O'Toole and the current Conservative Party of Canada is doing the best job at actually representing conservative ideals. So
No.
I
I would suggest that he's largely a coward, to be honest.
I would agree with you. I would completely agree with you on that. Yeah. He's very much liberal light, and so there wasn't much of a choice between liberals or liberals who call themselves conservatives in the last election. So
No,
unfortunately.
No, and I mean, someone once told me that the Liberal Party in BC is very much functionally the most conservative party out there. So that probably causes a little bit of stress between you and whatever friends are left.
Yeah, voting for a party called the BC Liberals. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I have to say, just a note about them really quick is, have you heard of a gentleman called Aaron Gunn? No, so you're, I don't think you're not in BC, but, or I don't think you are in BC. Nope. There's a guy named Aaron Gunn, actually, who was running for BC Liberal Party leadership in the last month or two here, I think. And very much small C conservative, kind of shares a lot of the opinions we have. And they literally they did the whole smear campaign on him because he was getting a lot of social media interaction. There was a huge groundswell of support for him, and the BC Liberal Party establishment just went on full. They did a 180 on him. They basically said they were going to support him, and I think you'd bring a fresh voice to our party, and went 180 smear campaign, very very much like leftist tactics on just nope, we don't want this guy running, we're going to turn on him. So so even the BC Liberal Party is just everything's enjoying that slow side to the left right now, right? To use the word enjoying again, meaning not enjoying at all, but yeah.
No, that's interesting. I mean, personally, I default to being conservative, but because I'm not anti-Puppite. I don't know if you've ever heard that term. It's no, I'm guessing by that expression you haven't.
I haven't. No.
And,
you have
and
to explain what anti-Puppite means to me.
being a puppet means I can't be anti-puppet. Correct. So anti-Puppite would mean you're anti-puppet. Thus, it's only natural that I would actually support Joe Biden. You need to know that yeah, it's kind of it's conflicting, right? Because you're I need to support fellow puppets, but
right.
Yeah, and so when I look at Canada, I'm sure Justin Trudeau, he's got something up his butt. But, I really don't know what else it would be.
Probably a bottle of hairspray.
Oh yeah, that's probably where he stores it.
Yeah.
One of those little travel pack ones.
Yeah, I'm still on the fence as to whether Joe Biden is a puppet or a hologram. But you decided puppet, you think, yeah?
Oh, definitely puppet. Okay. A hologram. Actually, puppet. Because I mean, if you think about it, think about that CNN town hall where he was standing there with his arms out.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let me show you something. All right, so when I'm just standing, when I just sit there,
yeah,
my arms just hang like that.
Right.
So remember that CNN town hall where he was just standing there?
I do.
All those memes? Yep.
So, you make a good case.
Definitely puppet. Definitely a puppet.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to agree with you, for sure.
Yeah. So, honestly, though, so kind of going more to the heart of maybe your relationships with other people, how has it, being a conservative, affected your relationship with fellow British comradians?
Yeah, you know what? It's been an interesting journey, honestly, because I grew up in a town called Abbotsford, and it's very much been known as a conservative haven, right? It's been the Bible Belt of the Fraser Valley, or it has a bunch of different nicknames like that, right? Tons of churches, a lot of homegrown conservatives, but it's just kind of one of those things where and it's one of those things, it's an entitlement of comfort. It's an entitlement of safety, honestly, to not have to be politically engaged. Because if politics shouldn't matter as much as they do right now. If a government's just doing what they should be, limited government, looking after things like especially federally, looking after borders and highways and very little, right? Then you don't have to worry about government. You don't have to make politics your daily bread, right? So it's very much kind of a fault of the fact that we've had good governments for a long time, that we didn't have to worry too much about that. Obviously in Canada we have really high taxes and stuff, but we're very passive. We kind of just grew accustomed to that. And so people weren't politically engaged. What happens when you're not politically engaged is just inevitably, because you look at all the cultural strongholds, you look at whether it's academia, whether it's the media, whether it's Hollywood, right? All the movies and TV shows that we watch. A lot of those things are very much culturally left. And you can look at, in the States especially, something like 90%, 95% of mainstream news outlets are registered Democrats, right? People that work at major news outlets are registered Democrats. So that's, you can go into Jordan Peterson, he talks about just by virtue of your psychology, if you're higher in trait openness, you're going to be open to more things like the arts, right? Or leaning towards going into media, stuff like that. So it's kind of just by virtue of people's psychology, those institutions lean left over time, right? So in a place like Abbotsford, people aren't super politically engaged. That's what they're consuming all the time. They're going to university, they're watching the news, they're watching movies and stuff like that. We kind of, it's called the Overton Window, which is like the degree of acceptable, the window of acceptable political opinions, right? That slides left over time kind of inevitably until like a reset happens, right? And so I woke up one day deciding that politics mattered and I need to start talking about them, because I saw some troubling warning signs happening, and I found out that Abbotsford is like a lot less conservative than I thought. Because I went online and I was saying some very outrageous things like BLM, the organization, is a garbage Marxist organization, and lie about almost everything and are for the destruction of the Western nuclear family, and they're anti-God, and they're
And if you look at their website, you see everything that's on there.
Yeah, they're not hiding the ball.
No.
Like you have Patrice Couleur is one of the organizers on an interview on I think it was MSNBC or something, and she's just talking openly about we call ourselves trained Marxists. Like, they're not hiding the ball, right? This is the philosophy that killed 100 million people in the last century, but we're just gonna be open about it in 2020 because that's where the world's at right now, right? So, so I just said that I started to see churches and stuff in Abbotsford start jumping on this BLM bandwagon, and you start looking at what they're talking about. I've talked about police brutality. I've talked about the stats on that. I think it's episode 2. If you go back and listen to that episode, if you're interested in more, because I'm not gonna go over them again here, but like, basically everything that organization says is based on a lie, right?
And it's founding. That's the other thing. It's all founding, like where it actually came from. It was all based around Trayvon Martin, and they lied about that whole case, and then and anyway, it's just nonsense.
Yeah, absolutely. So you watch that stuff happen enough, and then it starts to infect even like churches and stuff, and you're like, of course the statement Black Lives Matter is true, right? But when I was openly against the organization, I was pretty careful to say the organization is obviously I love people of all colors, right? That's how I was raised. I very much grew up in a post-racial town. It's a very diverse town, Abbotsford. And so coming out against the organization got me in tons, like people were on my Instagram, people were like calling me out. There's this one toxic Instagram account that basically were like, this is Patrick Jolicouer, and like, here's his band, don't listen to his band, don't support his business. And just kind of got raked over the coals. And I kind of expected that. You watch that happen to so many people on the conservative side out in the world. And so I counted up the cost. I knew that was coming. And here's the thing. It's not that scary. That's the biggest thing about this stuff, is that like, you come out and do that. It's not that scary. Yes, I've lost some relationships. I've never lost a relationship and I've had it be my fault. Like, I'm determined to not lose friends over politics, but people will inevitably just cut you off if you disagree with them enough times. Right. So that's been unfortunate. I've had an old roommate just like get super toxic on me and they just stop talking to me and stuff. And it's just like, you know what? You find out who your friends are, and I think it's a refining fire, because you whittle down your social group to people that like either agree with you and you can travel together, right? Or B, know how to disagree and still be human and know how to like have a rational conversation without getting their emotions and getting their heart involved in it. Because a lot of people don't know how to do that today. So there's been some rough things. I've lost a couple of friends, but it's you can look at it as a positive, right? You can refine your social group. You can find people that really matter, that love you. They're gonna love you regardless, and it's been a huge net positive overall, for sure.
Now, do you find that you can wind up in an echo chamber, like, because now you're just listening to the same kinds of voices, and how do you protect yourself from that if you don't think you are?
Yeah, for sure. So, obviously, the biggest one is we're all on social media and the internet like far too much these days. But
Well, I'm really not. I mean,
no, you're under a rock mostly.
Well, actually, like I told you, I sit on a stick that's just over there,
Oh, okay,
like most of the time. And
got it.
Yeah.
Okay. so okay. Well, so you don't have the problem most of us have is spending way too much time on Twitter, which is probably for a good thing. But I think you are on Twitter though, yeah.
Yeah, I totally am on Twitter.
Got you. Okay. So there you go. So even puppets are spending too much time on Twitter these days, right?
Like that Big Bird jerk.
Yeah. Yeah. Even Big Bird is woke in 2021, man. Woke. It ruins everything.
I mean, Kermit. I mean, he kind of seems like a last holdout. I mean, if there's any conservative puppet out there, it'd probably be him. At least in the business mindset. Yeah. But,
the business mindset. He's an entrepreneur.
But in the last like 2 years, ever since there was some, for lack of better words, internal changes, Disney has made sure that Kermit has become more woke, and
right.
Like that's why like his voice has changed. They kind of probably grabbed him from the insides in another way. Yeah.
I wouldn't have known. I'm definitely not as attuned to puppet culture as I maybe was growing up. So I apologize. I don't know.
Well, puppet culture is actually pretty big. It's
yeah.
You wouldn't believe it. It's
really
kind of shocking. The amount of people that actually love puppets. But truthfully, they're mostly really weird. Most of them.
No.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have
There's
called
a lot
that.
of people that are willing to jump on live streams and talk to puppets.
Yeah. Well, I'm one of them, so I can't really say anything about that.
That was the joke.
That was the joke. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to pick up on puppet humor too. It's kind of a
we most of us actually have like deadpan facial expressions.
Right.
I mean, you just kind of sit there and hope for the best.
Right.
I mean, I can open my eyes and close them. It's a little different, but yeah.
It's impressive. It's impressive.
Yeah, you do what you can, right? You do what you can.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you found it difficult, but at the same time you've refined your friendships, and you protect yourself by making sure that you're listening to other voices.
Well, yeah. You try to you don't want to be in echo chambers, because that's the biggest thing. Is I was always kind of raised knowing that like you shouldn't. Honestly, I think you shouldn't probably speak up about things unless you can argue the other side, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the things I really intentionally try to do is try to curate my news, curate my social media feeds, so that I'm following a lot of diverse voices, right? That's one of the nice things about being on kind of the right side of the aisle these days is that there is actually a lot of diversity of opinion on the right side, right? There's a lot of people on the right that disagree with each other all the time, but they can talk about it like normal human beings without going, oh my God, I'm offended all the time, right? So that's really important. But then also, I do have friends who know how to engage on a personal level without getting all emotional and involved. And so we go back and forth a lot. Actually, there's a guy on Twitter who like we've been actually pretty toxic to each other. Like he kind of comes at me all the time. He'll just comment on my stuff, and he's pretty ruthless sometimes, and I kind of get that way back. Maybe to my shame, but we've kind of just had a little moment at the end of our last little spat where it's just like, hey, look, like I checked out his Instagram actually. I was like, you seem like a chill dude. Just kind of offered an olive branch. I'm like, you seem like a chill dude. You got a beautiful family and the music you make is cool and stuff. And I hope we can have this beautiful, toxic, clapback filled relationship for many years to come. Right. And he's like, hey, same, like you're a chill dude and I disagree with everything you say, but let's see where this goes. And so if you can be intentional about finding people you disagree and not just like crapping on those relationships and trying to cut people off and be really like rude intentionally to try to like push people away. You can keep those people in your circle, and that's what refines your opinions and helps you learn the arguments from the other side, which makes you a more effective debater, a more effective communicator. It makes you better at everything you do if you're involved in the political, philosophical sphere, right? So,
no, that's great. That's great. I mean, being able to have those rough conversations, it also, in the heat of those moments, it gives you a window into the thoughts of the other side, right?
Totally.
So you can look at the stats, but the stats aren't always the mindset. And understanding that there is a difference between mindset, statistics, reasoning, and all that kind of stuff, but it all gets jumbled up into this one thing called a person, and everybody is different.
Totally. And you know what I find too? I find that a lot. So much of our differences comes down to very often we feel the same about things, right? Like both, like let's excuse me, let's take BLM for example, right? So Black Lives Matter, we've talked about how they're a really toxic organization with Marxist roots, and they're openly lying about a whole bunch of stuff, right? At the end of the day, I could be convinced that they do genuinely care about Black people, right? Which
Mostly,
I also
maybe.
Yeah.
Although I really have a hard time believing that Black Lives Matter to Black Lives Matter. You see all the violence and all the stuff that is between Black people, and I really genuinely think that they're more self-interested than they are in anyone else. To be completely frank, I mean, do they care about them and those who support them? I guess so far as there's a paycheck, but
and I see that's the thing too. Is you make a good point. Is that oftentimes they're actually, I think they probably, maybe it's more accurate to say they're fooling themselves into thinking they care about Black communities, because that's the thing is if they actually cared about Black lives, right? They wouldn't get so toxic and so angry when people disagree with them about the cause. So you look at guys like Thomas Sowell or Larry Elder, who are absolutely brilliant Black scholars and Black communicators, and they're constantly called the worst sorts of names from the BLM types, right?
And there's also that other Tim Scott. Is that his name?
Yeah, Tim Scott.
Yeah. I was listening to a podcast
in Congress.
with him, and he was talking about the words that come over his voicemail all the time, and he actually played a whole bunch a while ago, and that was kind of crazy.
Some of the messages he gets, and a lot of that stuff comes from like it's not white people calling Tim Scott names. You know what I mean?
No.
It's coming from people like BLM, right? Because he's a Black Republican. Oh my God, how dare you disagree with us, right? And so maybe it's either they care about Black lives deep down, and we just totally disagree on how to do that, right? How to help the Black community where the Black community is struggling, right? Or I think this is very much the case too. They fool themselves into thinking they care about Black lives because they're more concerned with their pocketbooks, like you mentioned, or their own appearance of virtue, right? Thomas Sowell talks a lot about that, where he talks about intellectuals especially, but everyone does this, is just saying things that sound good, right? I care about Black lives, I'm an ally, whatever, right? Without looking at any of the root causes, looking at any of the facts. If you're not looking at truth, if truth doesn't matter to you and you're not going by the stats, a lot of the policy changes you're trying to enact are actually they can be super damaging, and you don't know because you haven't done the work, right? Do you actually care about Black lives, for example? If you're not doing the work to find out, you're not living in the real world, you're not going to find real world solutions, right? So
and denying the real world too, right? And suggesting that bad decisions that those individuals made are actually on everyone else, right? So if a guy was speeding down the road, and let's say he's Black, just for sake of argument, and he's speeding, gets pulled over, gets a ticket, doesn't pay that ticket, and then loses everything. Well, ends up having to pay extra money and fines and all that kind of stuff. Loses license or whatever. That's not discrimination. That's just someone making a stupid decision. And yet those kinds of things are being pitched as social injustices and whatever else. No. You just want a free pass for doing wrong, and it just doesn't work that way.
And that's the thing, when that starts happening a lot, right? If that starts happening a lot where everything is racism, right? Which we're far past that point. But you lose your ability to actually recognize real racism or real racial problems, right? So for example, with things like Black crime rates, there are plenty of studies, and I have these sources on my website, hemlockpodcast.com. But there's plenty of studies showing that and this depends on the area you're looking at, but generally, people are arrested at different cohorts, different population groups are basically arrested at the rate at which they perpetrate crime, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that again, that differs in certain areas, but generally that's true. In fact, there's a lot of data saying that like the black cohorts, for example, are actually under-policed in certain areas because of movements like BLM and that kind of thing, right? And then crime rates go up and poverty goes up, and then we wonder why we have income disparities between black communities and other communities, right? So what ends up happening is this whole thing where like, oh, we want to solve police brutality, right? Which is a very small problem, actually, right? I think in 2019, the stat is like there were 9 unarmed black men shot in 2019 by police. 9 in a country of 330 million people, right?
And out of those 9, 8 were attacking police officers with their hands.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So still presenting a threat, right?
Yeah.
So that's exactly the thing. So police brutality, which is the whole crux of the BLM movement, is statistically not a problem, right? It's just not. And I don't mean that to to just like denigrate the whole, but I kind of do, because it's a ridiculous movement to be founded on that doesn't exist, right?
Yeah.
And obviously when there's police brutality that is wrong and it is racially motivated, that's evil, that should stop. But we need to call a spade, right? And so when you try to solve a problem that doesn't exist, you end up creating a whole bunch of other problems on the fringes that those people can then deny because they're not following like the cause and effect chain, right? And it ends up worse off for everybody, and you lose things like you said, you start calling just getting a speeding ticket racism, right?
Yep.
You remove that personal responsibility component, and then that doesn't help either, right? If you keep telling people it doesn't matter what you're going to do because police are going to be brutal to you or they're going to shoot you, what's the incentive to not speed? Right?
No, exactly.
Who cares? Like, I'll just live what I live, whatever. I'm going to
Die
get arrested
anyway,
or shot
may as well
anyways.
go out
Like,
in a ball of flames.
yeah, and you see that happening, literally balls of flames all over the place with the BLM riots and stuff, right?
Yeah.
On something that's unfortunately based on a lie. And it's actually, you look at most of the communities that burned last year.
Misrepresenting people of the past. One of my big beefs is looking at history and thinking that we're better than all those people now. Like that's just something that drives me nuts. Like compare it to the Orange Lives Matter stuff here in Canada, right? One of the supposed uninformed opinions is that if you look at how Canada actually tried to take over the land, instead of going in and warring with all of the native tribes, they had them sign paper. They thought they were doing it the better way.
Right.
They weren't thinking like, hey, we should wipe out all these people and destroy them. And then they thought, hey, you know what? We should try and make them like us. We're educated. We have the wheel. They have fire, but they don't even have a wheel. We've had wheels for like thousands of years.
Right.
So, like, let's help them. But they need to be educated. Now, their education's different than ours. But, I mean, obviously, injustice. There's things that were done wrong. There were things that were perpetrated as evil. Yeah. And all that jazz. But, I mean, the story's a lot bigger than what the media or other people really want to acknowledge.
That's exactly right. I think you're making a good point that... and that's not to say, like, obviously there is a bunch of stuff with things like residential schools I think you're talking about. There was a lot of really messed up stuff that happened in residential schools.
But there's so much good that actually also came from them.
Right. That's exactly right. Is that I think that history is a much more nuanced and complex thing than any of us, especially these crazy college kids just protesting everything. History is so much more complex than they realize. And so to go back and just rake somebody over the coals, like, I mean, I just tweeted something out last night actually that Donald Trump said, today it's Robert E. Lee statues being taken down. Tomorrow it's Abe Lincoln and Thomas Jefferson. And now they're tearing down Thomas Jefferson statues in certain cities. Right?
And everyone's saying like, no, they're not going to tear all these statues down. Those are the good guys.
They made fun of Trump for doing that. Oh, Thomas Jefferson's next. And they're like, no, you're an idiot. That's not going to happen. You're just fear mongering. He was right? Which he ended up actually being right about a lot of stuff, despite what people said about him.
Well, to be fair, he is an idiot. He says a lot of dumb things. But the people that he had around him, whether they were placed by him or not, that's debatable, they were pretty smart. So you saw unprecedented success in the United States.
Sure. Yeah, and I would agree that he said a lot of outrageous stuff.
Yeah, he personally, as an individual, he's just not a good guy. He's just not. but he was a good businessman.
Right. And I think, yeah, to call him good or bad, it might be a little simplistic, I think. But because I think what he did that was really good was that he kind of had his finger on the pulse of middle America, right? These people had been told for 50 years or longer that, like, from media and academia in Hollywood, they're like, I hate your God, I hate your lifestyle, I hate your family. And the media just gaslit those people for decades. And so what part of Trump's popularity was that he had his finger on the pulse of that. He's like, I want to make an America that's good for everybody, not just the coastal elites, right? And I don't want you to be a forgotten cohort of our population anymore. So I think that's a hugely good thing. He was a nightmare on Twitter sometimes. And then even I find in Canada too, like a lot of, that's actually, it's the reason I don't want to be like cornholed. That's not the word I'm looking for. Pigeonholed.
Pigeonholed.
I don't want to be pigeonholed into defending Trump writ large. Because I disagree with a lot of what he said, and obviously he has some major character flaws, right? But that was part of my red pill story. Was I was like, I saw a video of him. I can tell you the story if you like. Basically, there was a video clip of him. J.K. Rowling tweeted this out, actually, which is ironic. So J.K. Rowling wrote Harry Potter, right? Yep. And now she's being canceled because how dare she? She thinks men are men and women are women and men can't be women just by saying so. So she's getting canceled now. But anyways, it comes around for them all eventually. But so J.K. Rowling tweets out this thing back when 2016, 2015, around that time, where Donald Trump, he's like, I think it's in the Oval Office, he's going around shaking hands with people, like 20 different people, and there's this little kid in a wheelchair, right? And Trump just like, the kid wants to like shake his hand, is looking up, trying to get his attention. Trump just blows by him, doesn't give him the time of day. It looks really bad, right? And so J.K. Rowling tweets this out. She goes, okay, Donald Trump is a disgusting person. He thinks disabled people aren't even people, whatever. Like, look, this just totally reveals his character. And then I just happened to notice the top tweet. And it just said, hey, can you retract this and post the whole clip, please? Right? And you can tell it's the whole clip because it's when he walks into the room. And what he does actually when he walks into the room is he goes straight to the kid in the wheelchair, crouches down in front of him, like shakes his hand, spends 30 seconds with the kid, and then goes around and spends 2 seconds with everybody else. And that's the clip. So you saw the clip from after that cut, right? And so I'm like, hey, that completely changes the narrative,
context,
right?
Yep.
And so, context is huge, right? So you see that happen time after time after time. I started looking, I'm like, how often is this happening, right? Where people are just lying blatantly about the context of this. And it was every time you can like, they're not sending their best lie. Where people say he like says all Mexicans are rapists and drug dealers. Like that's not what he said. He's talking about MS-13. He's talking about illegal immigrants, right? Yep. And not even all illegal immigrants. He was specifically talking about gang members in MS-13, right?
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say when it comes to all that kind of stuff, when Trump lies, he lied. Like all the him with that porn star or whatever it was. He lied about it.
Stormy Daniels,
Stormy Daniels. And then then he lies about it again. And then he lies about it again. And everything just keeps being proven false. Every time Trump lied, every time we found out.
Yeah, so and it was that's the thing about dumb stuff like porn stars and crowd sizes, right? Yeah. So it's like Trump's lie is my crowd was fantastic. It was the best crowd. It was the biggest crowd in world history, right? The left's lies are men can be women.
Yeah.
Right? The left's lies are police brutality. Thousands of... I've asked friends this. Like, how many black men are you... Like, unarmed black men do you think are killed by police every year? Yeah. And people go, like, thousands. It's not even over 10 a lot of the years, right?
In a population of, like, 300 million.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, and that's the thing is, like, the left's lies are, like, these... Honestly, like, these society-changing... often to serve massive power grabs. They're that kind of lies. Where Trump's lies are like stupid stuff he'd say on Twitter, or stuff that was framed by the media to be a lie and wasn't actually what he said, right? Like the Charlottesville thing was a great example. That happened up until the Virginia election like a month ago, where they said, Trump said, very fine people on both sides, talking about white supremacists. So Trump said white supremacists are fine people, right? Except 5 seconds later in that speech, he's going, and I'm not talking about white supremacists or the neo-Nazis. I condemn them utterly. Like he literally says that 5 seconds later. And that lie was being perpetuated like 4 or 5 years later now. Like that That happened back in 2016, I think, 2015.
Yep.
And
16.
they're telling that lie, 2016. They're telling that lie up until the Virginia election, and still a month ago. Like, we're stupid. Like,
Yep.
it's bizarre. It's absolutely bizarre. So yeah.
Well, it's because we are stupid. We're very ignorant.
Many of us are. It's
We
true.
don't know
Yeah.
what we're talking about.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
use Google, and we rely on conservative sites like Parlor.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean,
You know, I always wondered why it's called parlor, because it's a French word to speak. So I always called it parlay, and then a bunch of Americans all call it parlor. But
it's probably
anyways.
parlay, and then because Americans
Yeah.
are dumb, they said parlor.
well, Canadians were doing it too. But yeah.
Well, you'd think the Canadians would at least be like parlay. But
Exactly.
parlor.
Well, you'd think so. We're a bilingual country, but anyways,
Exactly.
not to sound like
We're
a
not really
precocious
bilingual,
French guy, but
just a name.
yeah, I pronounced my
French.
name today Jolicouer, and my last name is Jolicouer. It's a French name, so.
Yeah, I know.
Anyways, maybe that's why.
Yeah. Anyway, it's very interesting considering everything that's going on. But truthfully, I got to kind of wrap this up here. But
Yeah.
I really appreciate your time. Really quick, explain your water bottle and your shirt and your podcast, and go from there.
You caught me shamelessly grifting. Yeah, so this is all available at my website. So the water bottle, the based water bottle. So based is, you know what based is, right, Floral?
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
No. I looked it up once and I was like, basically, I think it's the opposite of what's the word, like not deplorable or something. I don't know.
Yeah, well, based in the current context, based is like the conservative word for that is like that's a great down to earth opinion, right?
Yeah.
So I just defined it. I found the definition is unapologetic authenticity, courageous, unique, uncaring of public opinion, having a foundation in truth grounded in reality, right? Which is kind of what I'm about, right? And what we're about here at the Hemlock podcast. So that comes free with we do yearly memberships,
Nice.
all access memberships. So there's like exclusive content, some of my writing, and like secret videos, and I do like live hangouts every week.
Like,
and
when you say
yeah,
secret,
merch discounts.
secret
all that.
videos like my OnlyFans.
No, not that kind of secret video at all.
No? All right.
My wife would be very angry with me if I did that. But
Well, I know.
yeah, a bunch of other fun perks for year-long members. And this
cool.
comes free with that. The base sweater, honestly, was just... I didn't even mean to be wearing this, but it's like the comfiest sweater I own. That's not a shameless plug. I just never take this off now because it's like wearing a cloud. So yeah, I just got it as a test, but that's also
You never
available
take it
now.
off, and it's still white, so it holds
it's
its
still-
color
yeah.
as well.
You know, OxyClean, man, is my best friend. It's my best friend. Yeah, it's a
Perfect.
miracle powder. Yeah.
Right on. Well,
So,
that's awesome.
hemlockpodcast.com. It's all there.
And you're on Twitter, and
Yeah.
you're on YouTube. You're kind of just everywhere, eh?
I'm trying to keep my bases covered, man. So yeah, either at Patty Jolicouer or Patrick Jolicouer or Hemlock Podcast. I'm all over social media. I'm on TikTok now, doing a lot of TikToks and stuff. That's going really well. So I'm all over the place.
Right on, man. All right. Well, thanks so much for your time, and really appreciate you and all you're doing for humanity, I guess. Yeah.
I hope so. I hope it's something good.
Yeah.
Floral, it's been a pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to a puppet. It's a memorable thing for me. I appreciate it.
Well, I mean, I do what I can. I mean, this guy, he's kind of useless. Just sits around. But
Which guy?
trees nuts.
Oh, trees nuts. Oh, got you. I was I don't know what I was suggesting. I don't know what I was saying. Never mind. Just forget that. Forgot what I said.
All right. All right. Well, thanks again, and have a good day. And I'm gonna, I guess because we're just recording, I can end it. However.
Sweet. Thanks, Floral.